What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. Welcome back to anybody who is returning. Welcome to anybody who is brand new. I am super excited about this episode today. I have two phenomenal ladies joining me. We are going to talk all things podcasts. We're going to talk about the funny moments of our creator journeys, maybe some laughs that we have had, maybe some cries we've had. We are here to joke, to laugh. We want you to learn a little bit. We're going to give you a little break from your day, and we are super, super excited to be here with you. So without further ado, let me bring on Caroline and Morgan. Hi, ladies. How are
Hey.
you all?
Good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. This is my favorite part of the week because to me, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, most people are like, is it 5 yet? Is it 5 yet? Is my week over yet? Oh my goodness, what did I not get done? And if you are like me, I'm like, let me just take an hour break and I'll knock it out tomorrow. So if you are taking a little break with us, thank you for enjoying this hour with us. But I'm going to let these two phenomenal ladies introduce themselves. So, Caroline, you're up top. Why don't we let Caroline introduce herself first? Caroline, tell us about you.
Sure. My name's Caroline. You can probably hear my dogs going at it with each other in the background, so I apologize if that's the case. I do global enablement at Redis. I love my company. I love my team. I work with SDRs primarily, and I post a lot of content about SDRs and having been one myself, tips and tricks that have helped me. I was a professional actress for a little over a decade, so that's kind of my fun little background story. And yeah, I just moved to Austin, Texas.
I'm muted. Oh my goodness. This is my one blonde moment for the day. I used it up live. Okay, Caroline, are you loving Austin? Is it as weird as they advertise it to be?
I love it. I fell in love with this city the first time I ever came here for work, which was in May. And I kind of had that thought in the back of my head, like, what if I just moved here? And then, yeah, I visited a couple more times and my office is here. And it's difficult to coach SDRs on Zoom constantly. So I decided to move here to be closer to my team and kind of just have a fresh start.
That's so much fun. And you documented your move on LinkedIn. I loved watching that with you.
Thank you.
All right, Morgan, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and Speckit.
Yeah. So, hey, everyone. My name's Morgan. I'm an AE at Speckit. We do just-in-time learning. So think of us the next time you don't remember what to put in a Salesforce field or what your latest cold call script and outreach is. You know where to find me on LinkedIn. But I'm actually in Texas as well. I recently moved from Denver to Dallas. Caroline and I rang in the new year together. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I was a professional dancer for 12 years before getting into sales. And that's actually how Caroline and I bonded in the beginning.
That is so much fun. Okay, so I know we're going to get into the podcast stuff in a bit. I know we have a lot of people who are tuning in for that specifically, but I'm going to remove myself. I want you two to talk for just a few minutes about your individual creator journeys. I know, Morgan, I believe you're going to go first. So let's talk about that, and I'm going to just pop off.
Hi. So yeah, I think creator journey is an interesting topic. And I really, when I first got into sales, I didn't really know anything about LinkedIn. I didn't know anything about sales, much less like social selling. And so when I got involved with Speckit, that's really when I started using LinkedIn just as a basic prospecting tool. And then through Speckit, I actually got introduced to my really good friend, Zoe Hartsfield, who I'm sure everyone here knows. And she actually did a social selling course for the sales team at Speckit. And so it was really great, like just the basics, the fundamentals. So I started posting about things that I hoped would be relevant to folks that follow me or something like that, to build a following. And then as I got more comfortable actually posting, then I started posting about things that were a little bit more about me and maybe a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more authentic, but really always trying to keep the values, Speckit values in mind, my values as a person, my values at work, still keeping it work related, But of course, work bleeds into so much of our personal lives today that there's often that blurred line. But what about you, Caroline?
Absolutely. I feel like my creator journey, it's an interesting term too. Like I've never considered myself a creator before recently. Like I don't know, it felt very low key and very like low pressure to me for a while, and I didn't start posting on LinkedIn until 6 months ago. I had like 500 followers, like barely any connections really. And then I just had this idea to be really consistent with posting and to make a tagline of like SDR tips so that if people wanted to type the tagline into the search bar and like find stuff easier, they could. And I didn't know that what I was doing then was like creating a strategy for content. Like to me, it was just like, oh, I just want to be consistent with it. Because consistency was my New Year's resolution for 2021. Or sorry, 2022. What year did we just turn? I don't know. Anyway, so basically it was just about consistency. And then I started realizing that the more consistent I was, the more engaging it was for other people. And so my journey was kind of just about a personal goal expanding into, I guess now what is my creator journey.
Girl, you just had me dying. I was dying. I was trying to make my LLC at the beginning of the year, and I was like, "Why won't this form go through?" And I literally called like 3 people, and the last one was like, "Are you using 2022?"
Oh my God, stop.
Honest mistake. Honest mistake.
Honest mistake, but 2023, we were in 2023. Oh my goodness. I love that. I was talking the other day, and I really think accountability is going to be the word of the year for me for 2023. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to be more accountable. So, okay, individual creator journeys. Let's move into the enablers. You two created this. Who came up with this? Who reached out to who? Let's talk about that.
I DM'd Morgan one day and I was like, Morgan, I have a friend crush on you. Do you want to be friends? And she was like, yes, obviously, like, let's meet up. So we were across the country from each other at that point, but we had a Zoom call. And what was supposed to be like a 15-30 minute like meeting, it turned into like 2 hours, and we just like talked and had so much fun. I forget, Morgan, though, like, how did the podcast actually come about?
So, okay. So, first of all, like, this is the power of LinkedIn, I think, because actually, you were my prospect.
Oh my God.
That's how, because this was when you were still at Science. So, and I sell to enablement people. And yeah, so I was following you because you were at Science.
Okay.
You were my prospect. And then we just started like liking each other's posts and things like that. And I posted about my dog, who you'll probably hear during the show. And then you were posting about your dog. And then you sent me this message like, hey, we should do a Zoom happy hour. And yes, like it was a blast. It went way longer than it was supposed to. I was like, we're going to be friends for life. Like you're in the inner circle now, whether you like it or not. And a couple of weeks later, because you already had been doing your own podcast, you reached out to me and you were like, hey, do you want to start a podcast? And I had actually kind of been toying with the idea of it, thinking that it might be fun to kind of explore. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, this is the best idea in the world. And so, yeah, our podcast is, of course, focused on sales and sales enablement. But I think that we both have interesting perspectives. For me, I've only been a rep. And Caroline, of course, has been an SDR and, so selling and also in sales enablement. And we have a lot of enablement folks on the show, but also we've had people from marketing and sales leadership and things like that. So it's been really, really cool to sit down and have conversations with people that I probably would have never spoken to in my entire life.
Yeah, it's been so interesting. And like, Morgan and I have some big goals for this podcast this year. And new episodes come out every Monday.
Okay, so really quick, let's plug the enablers, right? How can people watch or listen to or get in touch with you guys about the show? If there's somebody watching who's like, I know somebody who'd be a great guest for your show, how do they get in touch with you guys about the enablers?
DM us. Morgan's probably way more responsive than I will ever be, so DM Morgan. But
because no one's trying to sell to me on LinkedIn. No SDRs are clogging my inbox. Yeah, DM us. We're always open to meeting new people and hearing other people's stories. We love speaking with people who maybe this morning we had a recording with someone who was actually a producer and worked in film for the majority of their career and then transitioned into sales and sales enablement. We have another episode coming out here soon with Stephen Wilkins, who is one of my most favorite humans on the planet, who actually is a classically trained opera singer. So we love talking to people who maybe have an arts background or a theater background. But we just really love hearing people's stories.
I love that about you two. You found the thing that made you two kind of click and you keep that kind of incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in terms of like the future, I know Caroline, you said a little bit, and Morgan, you said a little bit about guests. Can you tell us a little sneak peek about what's so exciting this year? And I know you mentioned one guest, but is there any like little like tidbits we can have about what's coming for the enablers and where you guys want to take this passion project?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of this stuff we want to keep a secret, some of the most exciting stuff, because we genuinely have some like pretty big plans and goals. I will say we have some of the most exciting guests lined up to roll out soon, and we're going to record with some really exciting people soon. I think the biggest thing for us is we want to kind of break the noise with this podcast. This podcast is like, it should feel like a happy hour. Like it comes out first thing Monday morning, but it should feel like you're at happy hour with your girlfriends. Like we want it to feel very chill, relaxed, no pressure. We try to like stay away from technical terminologies and like, all that stuff. We just like to talk to people and tell stories. So I think honestly, the most exciting stuff you'll have to tune in for and follow us for and wait for. But honestly, if you're in the mood for a low-key business podcast, like not something that makes you feel dumb for not understanding terminologies or like you need to listen with a notepad, like, you know what I mean? This is like the opposite of it's like Call Her Daddy of the business world, right, Morgan? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. If you haven't listened to Call Her Daddy, it's a pretty good podcast. Morgan, what do you think about that comparison?
Yeah. I love it. We had Catherine Caldwell on a couple of months ago, and she actually coined that. So we should probably shout her out for coining that. But I mean, there's so many business podcasts out there, and so many of them are great. But I think when we first were thinking about our own podcast, I believe the term that I used was like, I want it to feel like an enablement disco party. And so Caroline, so I think we really just want it to feel very lighthearted, but of course, drive value for people who might be listening in who are in enablement and are looking for different ways to structure their org or different ways to train their reps or things like that. So it's part party, part tactics, and it's all great.
I love that. I love that. That's how I feel about this show. Okay, let's move into a little bit about advice for anyone starting a podcast. You two both started something, right? I also want to talk a little bit about like the power dynamics. Who's doing the outreach? Who's doing the legwork? What does that look like? I know me, I'm by myself, right? So I prep for this show all by myself. I'm getting all of that ready on my own. But what does it look like as a duo? How do you guys recommend people do this together if they're getting started? And what do you wish you knew on day one?
So Morgan and I are like the two most laid back people about this podcast. We don't give ourselves like harsh deadlines, and like we're so forgiving if one of us like misses something or has to reschedule. So I'd say you should determine whether or not this is something that you want to be super regimented about. My dog wants to say hi.
Lady.
And I feel like that to that point, you have to match with someone who's also either as laid back as you are or as like regimented as you are. Yeah. I will say Morgan is more organized than I will ever be. And so she does most of the scheduling just because that's not my forte. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of the editing just because we use Descript and it's like the easiest tool to edit on. But I think it's a really good dynamic that we have.
Okay, there, guys, everybody write down Descript or DESCRIPT, Descript, put it in the comments. Let's go, y'all. We're learning today. This is your excuse for your boss of why you tuned into the LinkedIn Live show. You can start a podcast for work.
Yeah, I think so. Caroline's playing it down. She does all the editing because I am really like not technically minded, but we're actually talking about today scheduling a call so that she can show me how to use Descript so that I can start editing some of the shows. But I think one of our, like, yes, we are very laid back about it. I think that both of us got into this wanting for it to be something that was fun and enjoyable and not something that felt just like another job that we had to do. One of our podcast New Year's resolutions was to be a little bit more consistent with when we release episodes. Of course, things like working in sales, end of quarter, end of year is always going to be hairy, but really being proactive about like stockpiling episodes and releasing them on Mondays so that everyone knows when they're coming out and when they should expect them. But yes, super laid back. And I think Caroline's exactly right. Like our personalities mesh really well together. And it would be, if it is something that you want to do with someone, I think that that's something that's really important to take into consideration and something to communicate about from the get-go.
Okay. So my next question, because I've been on a few podcasts and I've been interviewed on some podcasts. So do you send your guests questions ahead of time? Do you just do it on the fly? How does that go? Do you guys have like an agenda? Do you know what you're going to talk about and when? How do you guys lay that out?
No. Morgan,
no. We did. Caroline sent a list of really great questions, which we should probably keep pulled up when we're talking to people because they are really great questions. And if we're not sure what direction to take it, like it's a good cheat sheet to have. But we really just want it to flow like a normal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being in sales, if you're good at sales, you're going to be a good listener. And so I think that it's easy to keep the conversation going with the folks that we have on because there's always something to talk about.
Okay. What do you think, Caroline?
I think in my podcast that I did previously, we always we had some questions that we would send out to people in advance. We'd even have like a little pre-show talk. And while I liked that, I kind of admire me and Morgan's ability to like have that flow, have that natural conversation with people. We always ask a couple standard questions. Like we have a sales fail. We ask people to tell us like an embarrassing sales moment or like a sales fail from their time prospecting or whatever. And we always ask about work from home and the switch from being in office to being completely remote and how that's affected productivity, team performance, etc. But aside from those two kind of standard questions, we really like to vibe with whoever is in the room, like on their own terms.
That's perfect because people's personality needs to shine. What's the biggest thing you've learned since starting a podcast, or what do you wish you knew on day one that maybe people watching today should know now?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I think I wish I had known how to look at like the analytics behind the podcast. So if you're using Anchor, which by the way, for everyone out there listening, Anchor is free. You might be able to get on like a paid plan and get cooler stuff, but Anchor is totally free to produce your podcast and put it on Spotify for free. Anchor definitely has some analytics that you can look into, like how many views and stuff that you've had. But I kind of wish Morgan and I don't really pay attention to that stuff a lot. We kind of just put this out into the world and like whoever listens. But for those of you who are starting a podcast who have goals about like monetizing it, getting sponsors, like I guess I wish that I had known more about how to look into all of that. Maybe that'll be a goal for us at some point.
Yeah, that could be your next ebook.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we were talking about this on New Year's Eve, actually, when Caroline came to Dallas to visit. I was like, how many listeners do we have? And she was like, I don't know. But I think that we didn't really get into this saying we want for this to be an income stream for us. I think for me being a salesperson, I was like, oh, well, it would be nice to maybe use this to gain traction to build my pipeline or something like that. But once I got into it, it was like, I'm benefiting from this because I'm having really great human to human conversations. And that is something that will benefit me, not on an opportunity specific basis, but throughout my career and throughout my relationships with people, even outside of work. So I think that's another point, is identify if this is something that you want to do to be creative, to be fun, to meet new people, or if it's something that you want to monetize.
For sure. For sure. Okay. Who does most of your outreach for new guests? Who's like the one who's hunting people to come on your show?
I think we divide it pretty evenly, Caroline.
Yeah, we are totally even with that. I will say we get a lot of inbound for our podcast. Like, we've had a really lovely amount of people like reach out to us and be like, "Hey, can I come on?" Or "I have a friend who'd be great." And we usually don't say no to people because, like, we just want to talk to as many people as we can. So I think Morgan and I are just surprised that we have anyone who wants to come on the show in the first place.
I think that that's really true. I feel like that with this show. I know when I reached out to both of you, I was like, please do me the honor of being on my show. But you feel like that because these are all people that you respect and you're taking up their time, right? And you really want to give back to your community. I know a big part of me starting this show was not just giving people like a break from their day, but it was also being able to teach people in a relaxed setting, because when things are super formal for me, I don't learn well. And like sitting here with you guys and knowing I can go back and play this and go to these websites and have these tools and being able to look at this later, like that's very relaxed to me. And that's how I like to learn. I don't retain everything at one time. I have to go back. I have to watch it again. I'm the annoying person in the Zoom meeting that's like, can you record this meeting for me? I'm going to need to watch it like 3 times.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love that about you guys.
Thanks.
All right.
You.
So let's talk about, and Caroline, you're going to go first. What is your best moment of your creator career so far?
Oh man. Best moment of my creator career is meeting Morgan. Like, meeting people like Morgan, meeting Morgan. Actually, no, it literally is meeting Morgan. That's the best moment of my creator career.
Oh,
because
what do
like,
you say to that, Morgan? You're her best moment of her whole thing. I'm like tearing up for you.
I mean, I could not agree more. I think that that's really the best thing that can come out of a creator journey are these amazing relationships that you have the potential to make. And so even Caroline, like, I love you dearly, top of the list, like the best person that have met so far through my creator journey. But even going to something like SaaStr and meeting all these people that are all over the place on LinkedIn, like everyone showed up pretty authentically, like how I would expect. And that was just really refreshing to meet these people in person and be like, yeah, you're the same as you are in real life, like, or on LinkedIn. So I think that those relationships that you can build through something like this are the best part to take away from it.
Have you ever had someone meet you in real life and be like, oh, you do look how you look on LinkedIn?
So it was funny, actually, whenever I've met people who I've spoken with on LinkedIn, they're like, oh, we're surprised that you don't have the pink bubble like around your head following you around and stuff.
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine if we all had our little like LinkedIn things that's what I should dress up for Halloween, like with a I'm hiring banner.
That's actually a really good idea.
LinkedIn Halloween costumes. Okay, we're going to move into the worst moment. What's the worst thing, or like something that had you down, or maybe you're feeling some type of imposter syndrome, right? Like we all go through that. What was kind of a moment where you were like, is this journey worth it? Should I keep going?
I actually have 3 things that come to mind, like boom, 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 like right away. And the first is the exact opposite of what I just talked about with Morgan. It's meeting people who are completely inauthentic, who portray themselves very differently on LinkedIn, or having experiences with people who are just very different than how they portray themselves on LinkedIn. And that's always very disappointing because it's like, I expect everyone to be as authentic as I am and as authentic as they portray themselves to be. So that's been a really disappointing moment, I think, in the times that it's happened. And the other thing is just the amount of harassment that I get about being a woman and posting pictures of myself. I get harassed every day on LinkedIn in my DMs, whether it's unsolicited messages, people asking me to marry them in the DMs, which is just weird, or people commenting on my looks or something. It just is disgusting to me and strange. LinkedIn's not a dating platform, so I don't like that. And I think the third thing is the amount of hate out there right now for people trying to create. I posted about this yesterday, but I have seen a crazy amount of posts lately being like, I hate creators, I hate influencers, I hate everyone on LinkedIn, like, don't pay attention to anyone. I'm like, that's such a jaded, unfortunate perspective. I really wish people would calm down. If you scroll through LinkedIn and you see a post that is a piece of advice that you would never do, just keep scrolling. I mean, there's really no need to like discount every creator just because there's a couple posts here and there that maybe aren't the best. I hate that perspective, and that always gets me really down, honestly.
I agree with you. And I get the same DMs. I'm sure Morgan deals with those as well.
Yeah.
I actually posted about that today. I woke up to one. I will say the person saw my post about them and DM'd me to apologize. So that was at least a growth moment, in my opinion. And that's why I didn't blast this person. I'm not trying to do that anymore. But I think we all have a lot to learn. And I think we have to hold people accountable. And Caroline, it's brave of you to talk about it. I think that a lot of times, like, I had a woman comment on my post, like, well, women shouldn't post pictures of their bodies or things like that. And it's like, I'm not going to not post a picture because I'm a female.
Yeah.
That's not the answer. So we got to talk about it. And anybody watching, you have to support the women who are talking about it. And if you're not supporting those women, get off my show. Stop watching right now. Thank you. Okay, so Morgan, let's talk about, what was the worst moment of your creator journey? Have you ever felt that imposter syndrome, or like that is this worth it moment?
So I think that probably the worst part of that is that LinkedIn is still social media. And social media can be a time suck. And it can also, the way that I view social media is it can have a lot of like cumulative negative effects. And sometimes, if, depending on the type of day I'm having, depending on what's going on in my personal life, I might log into LinkedIn because I have to for my job every day, whether or not I'm going to create content or something like that. Logging in and immediately feeling like it's just a bunch of people in a room screaming different advice at each other. And that makes me, I see things and it's just like, to Caroline's point, like, I don't like that post. Like, I'm not going to shame that person because I don't like their post, but it's going to piss me off probably. And so I think kind of managing that and being really self-aware of when I'm feeling that way, maybe I just get really focused and just use LinkedIn for prospecting to the bare minimum, that like only what I have to do. Because it's kind of, to me, it almost feels like a necessary evil at this point, and it can be this great vessel to make these amazing connections and build your own personal brand and et cetera, et cetera. But it's still social media. And I think that everyone needs to remember that from time to time.
It's definitely still social media. Like you said, it is a huge time suck. I don't even look at that little app on the phone, like the part of your phone that tells you how much time you spend per app. Can't look at it. Don't want to know. It's pretty much only LinkedIn though, so at least there's something for that, or Canva when I'm making something on the fly. But I agree with both of you. I mean, there's moments where it's tough because it is social media and you have the haters, and it's such a positive platform, right? I was talking to someone today who just passed like the 5,000 or follower mark, and they're like, I just got somebody really rude in the DMs. Is this what's going to happen now? And I was like, well, it might happen, like the bigger you get and the more you post about like your authentic journey and things that upset you and bother you, or your true heart, right? Not everyone's going to agree. So I think that that's just something that people need to know about becoming a creator or sharing your journey, right? Not everybody's going to agree. You're going to have people who don't agree and blatantly disagree, and who DM you and who call your boss and all of those things. So please remember, it is social media. But to the same point, like, you could use it just purposely for prospecting, right? Like, I need it for recruiting. So I also have days where I'm like, if I lost my LinkedIn today, what would I do? So it's kind of crazy for me as well. Do you guys have any like really funny things that have happened to you on LinkedIn? Caroline, you're gonna go first. Is there anything like just freaking hilarious? And the only thing I think of is there's like a viral video going around of like a lawyer who had a cat filter like stuck
Yeah.
on, right? Like, is there anything super funny that's happened to you in your journey so far?
Oh my gosh. Every day is a new embarrassment in the Book of Caroline. So there's so much that happens. I'm a really bad speller. I am constantly spelling words wrong. Or like getting dates wrong. Like up until yesterday, I'm sure I was aware of this somewhere in my mind palace, but I didn't know that there were only 28 days in February. I fully thought February was a month that had the regular amount of days in it. And so this isn't necessarily like a LinkedIn flub, but I asked someone if they wanted to meet on the last day of February, and I was like, maybe the 31st, and they were like, are you saying you never want to meet with me? And I was like, no, I'm asking you if you want to meet. And they're like, there's only 28 days in February. I was like, damn it. So I feel like I get little things wrong like that all the time.
Oh, that's really funny. I would probably take that as like Caroline hates me and doesn't
Yeah.
ever want to talk to me. Like that's an every day.
Please know that that's not the case. I'm just dumb. Like, please, please know.
You are not dumb. You just got the day wrong. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Morgan? What happened to you that was funny?
So it didn't really happen on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn was a part of it. There was an individual that I had met in person and had also interacted with on LinkedIn. And then I was at another in-person event, and I thought that I saw that individual at this in-person event, and I went up to person two and started talking to them as if they were person one, and they were like, I like, who are you? Like, why? And person two is also like kind of well known in the sales world, and I just like exited stage left, like just basically walked away. So that was embarrassing. Didn't happen on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn was a part of it, so
I hear that. I tagged the wrong person on like a live show once, and it was like two people with the exact same name, and I tagged the wrong one. And I'm like talking to the person on the live show, and I tagged the other person, and I was like, "Oh!" But I just like exited the live show and left. I'm like, "You're dumb. They don't want to talk to you anymore. You tagged the wrong person. Delete that comment. Goodbye." It was too late. They had already noticed.
Wait, I did that. We just announced a new CEO like a few weeks ago, and I accidentally tagged the wrong Rowan on LinkedIn in the CEO announcement. So this like random guy named Rowan DM'd me and he was like, "Hey, congrats to your new CEO, but that's not me. Like I think you tagged the wrong person." I was like, "Crap."
Oh my God, it's so funny when it happens. I think I told you both. I had a post the other day that kind of went like kind of semi-viral for me, but it took like 30,000 impressions for someone to message me and be like, "Hey Lauren, I really hope you don't take this the wrong way, but you got a typo in the second word of your I was like, "What?" I was like, "Well, thank you for telling me 30,000 people saw this and 8 people reposted it and no one said anything." Like, that's my blonde moment. I also went back like 3 months ago where I spelled referrals wrong on a post, and I was like, "You are not knocking it out of the park today." But that's okay. It happens. We're all learning, right? All right, cool. Well, thank you both for coming on the show. We're done a little bit early. There's a few people. Zencaster was recommended. I want to bring that up. Brent Zencaster Hunter is in the accountability group. If anybody's here wanting to learn to post on LinkedIn, the January group is full and running currently, but there is space in February. So if you go to the website, you can sign up for the February group. That is a free group. It'll give you a prompt every day to learn how to post and be consistent. We also have a Slack community where you will have some other people on supporting you, engaging with you. If you don't know what to post about, you'll have prior group members in there who can help you, who can show you what they've posted. It's just really a positive group. If you're not a positive person, we don't want you. Gary says about the hate that's every platform hating based on haters' own insecurities. I think you both would agree with that. You'd think scrolling past or moving on would happen. Sucks. Like, why don't you just unfollow us, y'all? Unfollow. I just tag LinkedIn help now on people who are like negative or comment on my appearance or rude. Whatever. Authenticity is key. Hi, John. What's up, John? I was supposed to go to Atlanta and meet John. Sorry, I'm sorry I didn't go to Atlanta. I wish I could be there. Starting this agency has thrown my beginning of my year off, but I'm sorry I didn't meet you. And Caroline, this is how they felt when you said the 30th day of February, Caroline. That's how they felt. The 12th of never ever. But ladies, thank you so much for joining me. Do either one of you have anything else you want to say about Speckit or Reddit or Reddit? Please don't say anything about Reddit. I don't need to talk about Reddit anymore.
Caroline, congrats on your new job at Reddit.
Thank you. It's been a journey. No, it's funny. My dad thought, because when I got the job at Redis, my dad was like, why does Reddit need enablement people? And I was like, no, it's Redis database, different. But yeah, no, Redis is awesome. We have world-class SDRs. Go give them follows too. I tag a lot of my coworkers in my posts a lot, so be sure to check that out. DM me if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, or go to my LinkedIn profile if you want to get a $10 SDR tips book.
And the tips book is phenomenal, y'all. If you haven't got that tips book, $10. That's cheaper than my Starbucks. Okay. Literally, I know people say that all the time, but I'm sure if you tell Caroline you didn't think it was worth $10, she'll refund you. But I promise you it's worth the $10. You're not going to say that. If it sucked, I'd tell Caroline it sucked, but it doesn't. It's actually really good. I'm just pretty honest. Y'all know that about me. I don't really care. I'm going to tell you how it is, but that's actually one you should be downloading and getting your hands on. She's not going to spam you. I promise. I know everybody's like, an ebook. I should have Karen on this show. For the Morgan, what about you? Anything else about Speckit or anything anybody should know?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to always shoot me a DM. I do get a lot of questions about my transition from being a dancer to BDR to AE. So I'm always happy to chat with people and connect. And if you do want to learn more about Speckit, always happy to talk about that too.
All right. And last time, what time does your podcast air and when?
Oh, time. That's something that we don't have.
It airs at some point on Monday,
yeah.
Usually right in the morning. And by that, I mean like probably 10 a.m. Central, by 10 a.m. Central time.
Okay, if it's not up by Tuesday morning, y'all, somebody DM Morgan because Caroline's not getting back to you.
Exactly.
Accountability, the word of 2023.
Accountability, yes. If anybody needs anything, we will see you next Friday. We have some phenomenal guests coming. I guess I should put myself back right here. We have some amazing guests coming up. We have Katie Dorsey coming up next month. I have some up and coming creators who are killing and crushing this LinkedIn game. We have Caspian, Luke, half meme, half man coming. We have a bunch of really fun people coming in March. We have Morgan J. Ingram coming on the show. So starting next week, we're going to do some raffles and maybe do a giveaway and get somebody on stage to get to ask Morgan a question live. So that would be something super exciting. Stay tuned, ring the bell, follow the show. We are now on Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Who are we? What are we doing this year? Ladies, this was fun. Have a great Friday, everyone. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone.